so cherished your phone calls. It never ceased to amaze her what the topics that you could talk about, and it was amazing to her. And Mrs. Gorodnitzki met Dr. Ferrara through Dr. Ron Sadoff and Professor Stephanie there, who couldn't be here today. She came to one of my Hanukkah dinners, and she loved Fedor latkes as much as she liked interesting people and loved conversation, good conversation. Especially historical figures. It was actually Stephanie there who saw Mrs. Gorodnitzki 2 hours before she passed away, and I missed her by 10 minutes. And Dr. Stephen Beach from Memorial Sloan Kettering became her primary physician. She was felt very proud that he took such great care of her. And he always returned her calls as soon as he could, and Dr. Beach never scolded me when I called him at all hours at his home. I even had his cell phone number. What doctor gives their cell phone numbers? And Larry Rothenberg, who took her to concerts and the ballet. He and Mrs. Gorodnitzki celebrated each other's birthday with lunches for many, many years. And it was obvious that he was not only her attorney, but her friend. It was he and his wife Elaine who found Carmen Mills, amazing lady, a fantastic caregiver, who made Mrs. Gorodnitzki's life at the end filled with love and care, together with the lovely nurses from the hospice care. Thank you, Garrick Olson, for all those phone calls from the airport, which made her feel included in the many successes you achieved. One year, Mrs. Gorodnitzki made sure I would hear all 192 solo pieces of Chopin, which he performed within 2 years' time. Once she even took me to the same concert twice. Once at Alice Tully and the other one at the SUNY Purchase in Westchester. That was a lot of Chopin. Garrett has sent an email from his tour, probably from an airport. I quote, I cherish Virginia Gorodnitzki's memory for the love she had for Sasha and his students, and on her activism on behalf of excellence in the world of the performing arts. I will miss her terribly, and I am sorry to be missing this tribute. Thank you, Albert, for all the hard work dealing with getting the apartment ready for her return this spring. It was no easy task. Mrs. Gorodnitzki asked Albert to supervise a cleanup at 285 Central Park West and to sort all of Mr. Gorodnitzki's papers and photos for NYU. Albert had the big Steinway in the living room at 285 tuned for her, and he played Chopin between sorting the papers, alone and together with her. But I'm afraid to say that sorting the papers was not nearly finished when Mrs. Gorodnitzki passed on. During the time I was teaching at the Perlman program for 12 years, Mrs. Gorodnitzki attended many of the concerts there, and she became somewhat of a fixture there during the summers. Itzhak and Toby Perlman came to know her very well. The Perlmans never called Dorothy DeLay, their teacher, by her first name. She was always Miss DeLay. And so they also called Mrs. Gorodnitzki, Mrs. Gorodnitzki, as Albert and I did. When the Perlman program decided to expand to 6 weeks, we needed a permanent space for the camp. It was Mrs. Gorodnitzki who found the property in Shelter Island, which was up for sale. And because of her, the Perlman program now has its home in Shelter Island. She even drove from the Perlman's home in East Hampton to the Shelter Island site and determined that the 35-minute commute was decidedly doable for the Perlmans. We celebrated her birthdays at the Perlman program for many summers. Itzhak would lead the entire student body in a hearty chorus of happy birthday. When Mrs. Gorodnitzki wanted to have the Perlmans at 13 for one of her luncheons on education, she asked me if Itzhak would be willing to do this. Itzhak's reply was, anything for Mrs. Gorodnitzki. Here is an email from Toby Perlman. I was very sad to hear about Mrs. Gorodnitzki's passing. We were lucky to have known her, and she will be missed. Thank you for including us in the celebration of her life. Unfortunately, neither Itzhak or I will be in New York this Saturday. I'm sorry about that. All the best, Toby Perlman. Mrs. Gorodnitzki's health was failing this past winter, but the thought of seeing Alexander when he came back from his New Zealand semester was what kept her going until this August. When she did not want to eat, Carmen would say to her, Virginia, you have to eat. You have to keep up your strength so that you can see Alexander. So when my family and I brought a birthday cake to her on her 92nd birthday, I was almost in tears with relief to see Alexander sitting close to her and giving her so much joy. At the discovery of her second meningioma, she cried, why do I have to have an atypical meningioma that grows rapidly? Why can't I have an ordinary meningioma that grows slowly? Well, Mrs. Gorodnitzki was no ordinary lady, with a love of music to her, concern about the world. Her heart was expansive and her dreams unlimited. She was an extraordinary